So ultralight gear is awesome until it isn't. I've spent hundreds of miles over the past couple of years testing some of the most popular ultralight gear on the market, on the Tahoe Rim Trail and the Zion Traverse Trail this year, and on the John Muir Trail last year. And there are a few pieces of equipment that I am just done with. And this isn't because they failed necessarily, but there's a huge difference between what looks like it would work on paper and what actually works on the trail. So here's the gear that I will never use again and what's replacing it in my pack. Hey friends, welcome back to the channel and thanks for being here today. So today's video isn't about trashing any kind of specific gear or gear companies. It's really more about refining what works for me. But I've had a few hard lessons that I hope you can learn from that has helped me refine what is not going to be in my gear kit and what will be in my pack. Okay, so the first piece of gear that I am over is really kind of two pieces of gear, which is probably controversial in the backpacking and through hiking community. But those are a couple of filters. I'm done with the Catted and BeFree and the Sawyer squeeze. And here's why. I took the Catted and BeFree on my JMT hike in the summer of 2024, and it actually worked really well throughout that whole hike. No complaints, no problems. About 3 or 4 weeks later, after coming home, I went on a trip with some friends to do Kings Peak, the highest peak here in Utah. And it failed catastrophically in the sense that I could not get water to go through it. I soaked it. I did everything. I cleaned it out. I not back flushed it, but how you do it with a BeFree in water, in the pouch it comes with, and water would just not flow out of it. Not to mention the bag had a few pinhole leaks in it as well. And so I kind of lost trust in the Catted and BeFree for that reason. Again, it worked great for me on the JMT, but for whatever reason afterwards, it did not work well. And the Sawyer squeeze I used 2 years ago on my Uinta Highline Trail through hike. And again, it worked great, but I do get a lot nervous seeing how many people go through so many of those on a hike or even a through hike where either the housing cracks or it loses so much flow because it's dirty, even when people are back flushing it. So what I have decided to go with, which I used this summer on both my Tahoe Rim Trail and on my Zion Traverse, is the Platypus Quick Draw. And really, why? Because it works. The housing is a little bit more robust and there's not that same fear of the freezing with the Sawyer squeeze as there is with this one. And then also it doesn't have that bag like the Catted and BeFree that I've got to worry about breaking. So I can use this on the bottles. I can use this with a CNOC as you can with some of the others, but I feel like this is a little more durable and something that I'm going to be able to trust a lot more on the trail. Okay, then second piece of gear is really more of a category. And if you've watched some of my videos leading up to the Tahoe Rim Trail and slightly afterwards, this one might not be that big of a surprise, but I am done with frameless backpacks. And yes, I have a few of them and have tested them. I've even got one that is not here anymore, which is the Evolve Supply Co. Ranger. So between the Ranger, the Durston Wapta 30, the Palante V2, and the Light AF Curve, I think I am just done with frameless packs. Now, I'm actually going to give this one a little bit more of a try because I have not used this one extensively. But those other two, and if you include the Evolve Supply Co. Ranger, those other three, I have tested. I have taken them on many kind of little day hikes, 7, 8, 9, 10 mile hikes with full gear of what I would take on a hike or on a through hike, as well as a few overnight trips. And they just don't work for me. And I think the primary reason why, partly due to my size and my frame, is anytime I put these packs on, the shoulder straps tend to ride up higher, and so the pack sits down below my shoulders, and it just doesn't hold that weight very well, especially when there's not typically hip belts and no load lifters to really help pull it back up. If you've seen like Jupiter hikes here on YouTube, and I'll probably roll some B-roll of what it looks like on myself, but there are times, especially with these Palante packs, where it feels like the backpack is a third of the way down your back. And that just doesn't work for me. I don't have a 6-pound base weight. And so I think that's really the big issue. I love the lightweight aspect of them. Some of them can definitely be very comfortable if it's just like a day hike, or maybe even if it is an overnighter where you're pretty close to home and you're not carrying a bunch of stuff. But for any kind of a through hike, I am done with frameless packs. And what I will use to replace that, obviously, is a framed pack. And what I used this year on the Tahoe Rim Trail was the Durston Gear Kakwa 40-liter pack, which I really like. That 40 liters is perfect for me. I'm usually around a 9-pound base weight, could be a slightly less than that, and could be slightly more than that, depending on how much camera gear I'm taking, and obviously a bear canister. But this pack did great, and I'll probably do a bit of a review on this, some things I liked and didn't like, but framed packs I'll continue with. The Zpacks Arcall is still my favorite pack, but I've got a couple of other ones that I might be testing in this upcoming year in 2026, so stand by for those. But frame packs, keeping them. Frameless, they're done. Okay, so the third item that I am done with is the Topo Athletic Mountain Racer 3 shoe. And I'm so done with it, I don't even have it here with me anymore. I threw that away. If you've watched my TRT series, you know that that shoe did not do very well for me. I had big time blisters on the second day. More came on the third day, and it really took me my entire kind of day and a half, my 0 day and the half day in Tahoe City to try to get my feet so that I could finish the trail. I don't know why that happened. I still am a bit flabbergasted. I had never had a blister on trail in my life before that happened on the TRT on my second day. So I've got an idea that it might have to do with the stack height on that shoe being higher. And as I would land on it, my feet would move around inside the shoe more than something that had a lower stack height. That may not be correct, but that's the working hypothesis that I have. I used the Pursuit last year on the John Muir Trail and didn't have a single blister. And so I don't know what it was about the Mountain Racer. Again, I know the stack height is higher on that shoe, but I'm done with it. What I'll be replacing that with is going back to the Ultras. These, I kind of stopped with the Ultras. These are the Lone Peak 9 Pluses, but why I think I'll go back to them is now these ones have a Vibram sole and they have a rock plate. Long overdue for Ultra to do that. I had a pair of Lone Peaks that I used on the Uinta Highline Trail and loved them. Again, didn't have a blister at all. But they just fell apart really quickly and didn't feel like it was the best shoe for how rugged that trail was. So with these updates to the Vibram soles and the rock plate in the shoe, I'm really looking forward to moving back to the Ultra and seeing how that's going to work. So that will be the shoe for me and for my hiking plans in 2026. The fourth piece of gear that I am done with, and it feels like this might be cliche, so I feel silly doing this, but this is kind of the year 2025 of the bottles, right? So I am going to be done with the disposable smart water bottles. They work. I love them. I'm not, somebody who's terribly concerned, let's say, with like the microplastics. Maybe I should be, but there's so much plastic in our world. I don't think drinking out of a bottle is going to be that big of a deal. But again, I could be wrong. But obviously what I am going to be using now are some of these more durable bottles. So the Igneous Nobo, this is the Ceenoc Thru bottle. I think there's another one from Miranda Outdoors. I'm not terribly interested in that one. But primarily why I'm interested in these, I do obviously have a soft spot in my heart for sustainability and keeping the outdoors beautiful. And just the continual buying and throwing away, and with what we know the real challenges are of recycling plastics, I just want something that I can use and I don't need to worry about, I'm not throwing these away, I'm not creating more waste, but these are things that I should be able to use for years at a time without going and buying another bottle, so I get the sports cap off of it. So that's my plan. I'm going to start testing some of these out, day hikes, and on my plans for 2026, which I'm really excited for. But these more sustainable, smart, these replacements to the smart water bottle are the new, and I am done with the disposable bottles. Okay, and the fifth and kind of final item that is making its way out of my kit, it's actually been one I haven't used for a couple of years, but it's a little bit more of a philosophical decision or change in how I'm doing things. And that item is the Zpacks duplex. And that's not because there's anything wrong with the duplex, but I am just done with the 2-person sized tents when it's just me. I know that people love to have a lot of room, and this has been a great tent. I use this tent on the Uinta Highline Trail. I really enjoyed it. It is big and it is spacious, but I just don't need it to enjoy the outdoors. I don't need it on my through hike. And there's a bit of a weight difference, and that's not really a big of a deal to me. There's obviously there's more space it needs to be guyed out and put out, and that can be a little bit of a challenge sometimes. But it just kind of comes down to it doesn't have anything that I really need. The space is more than I need. It's too big. And so my whole philosophy around packing isn't so much the ultralight weight. It's really more about the simplicity and the value. And this just has more than what I need. So I will continue to use what I have been using over the last 2 summers on the JMT, the TRT, the Zion Traverse, is my Zpacks Ultraplex. Not a perfect tent, and it's about time I did a review of this too, with 30, probably close to 40 nights in this. There's definitely some challenges here as well, but this is a great tent because it's not too much for me like the duplex would be, and it's certainly not too little. And so minimalist, it's not, but too big, it's not either. I love this tent, and I'll continue to be using this tent throughout 2026 and beyond, as far as I can see and tell. All right, friends, so that is the video for today. Again, this isn't so much about gear companies or specific gear that's not working, or that's bad or is terrible or whatever, right? This is really about how my philosophy and my hiking style has changed, and some of these changes in my style are affecting the gear choices that I have. So, ultralight, I used to chase grams and ounces to try to be the lightest possible, but for me, it's a lot more about being efficient, about being reliable and comfortable so that I can enjoy the trail more. So friends, look, next week, I'm going to share my ultralight gear wins of 2025 and what I would absolutely buy again and what I will continue to use moving forward. So please like this video if this was helpful to you. Please subscribe down below, especially if you're interested in what those wins are for 2025. And hopefully as we move into the holiday season, there will be some things there that you might consider for yourself or for your loved ones who enjoy hiking as much or maybe more than I do. If you would like to see how I test some of this gear out on the field and on the trail, I just finished a couple of days in Zion National Park along a really cool trail, the Zion Traverse Trail, that I would say put that on your bucket list if you got the opportunity. I will link that video here, and I will catch you all in the next one. Peace.